Am I the asshole for waking my husband up? I love the relationship ones. They seem like the they seem like they have the most to mine. I accidentally left my car keys in my uniform pants at work and left my pants in my locker. I don't wear my uniform home for multiple reasons. I just bring it home to wash. I have too. Why does it sounds like Tim Robinson wrote that line. I don't wear my uniform home from work for multiple reasons. I have two. So when I got home and I was pretty upset that I'd called 22 times and he hadn't answered, I continued trying to call him the whole way home in the Uber. When I got home, I went inside to the bedroom and woke him up. I was pissed that this had become a serious emergency. I'm pissed that had this been a serious emergency, I wouldn't have been able to get through to him. Hey, it's not a serious emergency, but if it had been, your behavior would not have been acceptable. Also, I know how this sounds, but this sounds like a great reason to do the classic pat all your pockets to make sure you got your keys before you leave the office building. Like these sound like a lot of problems that you have with your husband that would have been prevented by you not forgetting your car keys. Now, stuff happens. People forget, they make mistakes. They misplace their wallet, they misplace their keys. It happens. But at the same time, your husband didn't do anything. He literally was just at home and then he went to bed. He didn't do anything. My man, he literally just fell asleep and then woke up to you being insanely mad at him and having like 50 missed calls. Talk about a shot of adrenaline to start your day off wrong. Women don't have pockets, NL. She's got a bag or something. Come on, she could look in the bag for the car keys. I mean, even if she doesn't have a bag, it's not her husband is Levi Strauss. Her husband did not invent women's jeans. He's getting all the fire and he had none of the tinder. It doesn't make any sense. Apparently she made it work every other day. So don't give me the pocket excuse. She's 370 consecutive times remembering her keys. Then one time she forgets and she's like, women's jeans are the problem. Just take some personal responsibility. I mean, here's what I think happened, okay? And I do this myself, and I think everybody does. You're mad at yourself. I'm so stupid. Your emotions kick up. You're panicking a little bit. As soon as you start panicking, the adrenaline starts pumping. You're not thinking clearly. Your brain is looking for something else to blame. Oh, why won't Iron Galaxy just release more bots into the hopper so I can actually win a game? Oh, why won't they derank me so I can actually have fun playing this game without having to take any personal responsibility for my own actions, right? So I get it when you're not thinking being angry, being panicked, being scared it's like being drunk. Your decisions are not rational anymore. You're flooded with neurotransmitters that cause you to behave in irrational ways, okay? And then an hour later you're like, I'm sorry, I was being very stupid. I was in a heightened state, okay? That being said, I definitely don't think you don't have a leg to stand on if you're like, hey, you didn't react to my fake emergency as if it was a real emergency. Because that makes you sound, that's like a doubling down. It makes you sound like you're being even crazier. Instead of being like, hey, just so you know, never do that again. Don't put your phone on silent. Make sure the ringer's on for at least for me. And then he would be like, oh yeah, sure, my mistake. Instead, you make it sound like you were giving him a completely invalid test. That was I'm not having an emergency, but it's like a fire drill and you failed and that's why I'm mad at you. That is, you're approaching the situation in the wrong way. In an actual emergency, you would just call 911 too. You know what? That's the sort of thing that you and I can look at each other and make eye contact and nod. But at the same time, you couldn't bring that up in the argument. It's one of those times where it's such a silver bullet, you can't use it. You have to hold that in your head as your trump card in the argument, but then you can't, it's too powerful to use. It would blow out the other side. It wouldn't be fair. It's true. That's where the camera pans to you and you go, Michael, if it's a real emergency, just call 911. What if 911 was on silent, Jan? What if 911 was on silent? What if it's busy, Jim? You really think I wouldn't push you up against the wall? Like, he did nothing. This, if you look at this from her perspective, you hear like the Born Identity music. It's like the tension is amping up. If you look at it from his perspective, he's just like eating dinner, watching TV, doing the dishes, and then like brushing his teeth and going to bed, and then waking up in the middle of a firestorm. Dude's actually just going, he's like a cartoon rabbit going like, hoo, hoo. And then he's waking up to like, Jesse, how could you do this to me? What happened? What happened? Is everything okay? Your phone was on silent. I left my keys at work and your phone was on silent. Like he's just living his life, man. Say that you've never been able to reach someone in an emergency without saying you've never been able to reach someone in an emergency. You will understand why OP is not the asshole if you have never been through the experience. For me, it was having food poisoning while 6 months pregnant while my husband was off gallivanting on a mountain and didn't leave his route, and having to have the sheriff go look for him in hopes they might find him. Fortunately, he did, and it was a very awkward 30-minute snowmobile ride down the mountain for my husband because the sheriff drove the point home just how much of an idiot he was by not telling him that I was recovering from food poisoning until they got to the parking lot and would be okay. He made sure my husband suffered from the worry. Women go missing at the park and ride locations late at night. For a husband to not be reachable to that extent is beyond ridiculous. What? And that's why you never fall asleep or go on a hike ever. I don't even understand. The user received Reddit Galaxy for this post. I don't understand the problem. She had food poisoning while 6 months pregnant, while the husband was on a hike and didn't leave his route. Or did he leave his route and then the sheriff had to go look for him? But why? Why did the sheriff have to go look for him? Was the husband the only person? He had the last supply of antibiotics in his pocket. He's the only person who knows the 12 secret herbs and spices to make ciprofloxacin. I don't understand why specifically she goes on in the... Okay. Ben asked why I was searching for my husband. I was in the ER. They contacted the sheriff's department to look for my husband, not just because I was dealing with food poisoning, but because I also had our 2 young kids with me. As for limited resources, it was a very large county with 2 mountain passes and the largest city in the state. I also knew which pass he and his mountaineering group was on. Since it was June, there were limited places. So much detail. There were limited places that they could be for practicing snow camping techniques. He forgot to leave his itinerary when he left early this morning. In the 15 years since, he's never forgotten to leave his itinerary for either mountaineering or work trips. What are you talking about? What the hell are you talking? Okay, your husband, like, you're 6 months pregnant. Your husband went for a hike. Probably did not 15 years ago. Did not. What did he? This guy didn't do anything wrong either. This is exactly the same post as the original. The guy was probably like, hey, can I go for a hike today? And you were probably like, yeah, sure. And then he went on a hike and like some completely unpredictable shit happened. And now he's the dickhead for some reason. Because he didn't leave his itinerary. He didn't leave a map with his point-to-point location when he went out with his mountaineering group. 15 years ago? If you ever do your hobby, when I have a problem, you're gallivanting. If I ever do my hobby and you have a problem, that's self-care. This is just, I don't understand what's going on here. You ever wonder why your taxes are so damn high, but it seems like you don't get anything for them? This insane person is sending the sheriff out to go to find one single dude on top of one of 2 mountain ranges so that he can provide daycare to 2 children? Like, he's not gonna cure the food poisoning. I don't understand what the problem is here. 15,000 people read this and said, fuck that dude for hiking. It's true, I know. I don't know, is this like I don't know if it's like there's a 2 kinds of people in the world sort of dilemma here. Like, there's some people that are like, unexpected bad shit happens and you go like, fuck the universe. And then there's some people that go, unexpected bad shit happened, and you're like, who could I plausibly blame? If my husband was psychic, this shit would not have happened. So fuck him. Like, this is madness, man. He left her with the 2 kids. No, he didn't. Okay, because that's not like how reality works. I'm sure that in all likelihood, he didn't wake up early and go like, I'm gonna sneak off on a little hiking trip. I'm gonna go on a quick 15-hour hike without asking my wife. They probably have an arrangement. Hey, I'll take Saturdays, you take Sundays. Are you sure you're good? Are you sure? Are you sure? Okay, love you. Let me know if you need anything. And then he went for a hike. And now, despite doing all the necessary preparatory work, he's getting raked over the coals for it. And she's still holding the grudge 15 years. 15 years down the road. This shit happened in the Bush administration, man. Second term, but still, this shit is older than the Dark Knight. And we're still hearing about it. If they already knew you were going to be okay, why use the resources of the sheriff to bring him back? The sheriff let the husband sweat it out for 30 minutes. Then once the sheriff and husband got to the parking lot, the sheriff told the husband the wife was going to be okay. Let the husband panic for a half hour. 3,000 sociopaths. Hey, your wife is really ill. Here's the town sheriff on a snowmobile all the way up the mountain to come get you. It's an emergency. Is she going to be okay? Why don't you just hop on, shitbag? Bet you're really happy you went gallivanting on the mountain today. You just had to go mountaineering, didn't you? Just had to go mountaineering. Well, do you ever know what happens to kids when they lose their mother? Oh, yeah, she's going to be fine. Anyway, she's in room 36B. Right. Does sending the sheriff out to fetch the husband of a woman who isn't in critical condition sound like a good use of resources? Have you ever truly had food poisoning? It's my time. It's my time. At 6 months pregnant, it's a big deal, and OP was likely in the hospital. The husband needed to be there in case it took a turn for the worse to make medical decisions. Okay, internet, make up your mind. Is food poisoning not serious at all? Or do you need to have 24-hour medical supervision in case we need to figure out if you're going to do a do not resuscitate order? Make up your mind. Because when I'm like, hey, if I didn't get that, I had to fight tooth and nail to get 12 antibiotic capsules. And if I didn't have them, I probably would have been dead by now due to sepsis or something. People are like, yeah, sure. I stubbed my toe once. I know what it's like. Or is it the sort of thing where it's an immediate emergency at all times? I get that she's pregnant. Also, if I had been pregnant, you guys would have more sympathy. It's a bit of a double standard, don't you think? Refusing to elaborate and moving on. I'm just saying, if the roles were reversed, when did society get so soft, man? He just went on a hike. And then the whole town, including his spouse, conspired to make him feel like he was like negligent. He didn't do anything. Unless he gave her the chicken sashimi, I don't understand the problem. And yeah, this isn't even the post. I don't even remember the post now. Who's the post? Oh yeah, she forgot her car keys and it's his fault. Okay. I don't get that you're the assholes. Not the asshole. I get what you're saying. My dad went through a very serious emergency a few years ago and I live out of state. She didn't. That didn't happen to her. Are you stupid? I know you're like, well, if it did. But it didn't! This is fiction! You're living in a fantasy world! My dad went through a very serious emergency a few years ago, and I live out of state. My mom kept trying to call my sister, who lives 20 minutes from them, but her phone was dead, even though she was at home. So all she was able to get was the daughter a plane ride away who could do very little to help until I flew out. Where does the 911 not exist? What's happening? Is this a crazy world? Like, is this a clown world? What's happening? Okay, her phone died. Like, it happens. It doesn't make her a bad person because her phone died. I don't understand, like, why they're raking people over the coals, man. Both of the sisters are the top heart surgeons in the world. It's the only thing that makes sense. Or that you need them both to, like, the only thing that could save him is dropping a nuclear bomb, and they had the only 2 keys to turn simultaneously to open the nuclear football. Like, I can't even concoct a reasonably realistic scenario in my head where these are problems that, like, genuinely reflect negatively on the person that is supposed to have caused them. but had actually nothing to do with it at all. There are settings on phones for this exact purpose which allow families to get in touch with you in an emergency. And while yours was not a true emergency this time, ... I understand why you're worried about what you would do if you had a true emergency in the future. Okay, I thought it was going to be insane, but actually that's fair. So what you should do in the sober light of morning is recognize, like, hey, I shouldn't have been so mad at you last night about something that literally was not within your control at all. Can you please, for the future, make sure that your phone is not on silent when you go to bed and I'm working? Yes, honey. Sorry, my bad. Are you okay? Can I drive you to work today? Blah, blah, blah. And then problem solved. I don't understand why we're going through all these... we're going through the Socratic method. Here's some shit that happened to me in 1975. Problem that was within my grasp just gets blamed on somebody who had the audacity. He was out gallivanting at the grocery store, buying food for our family. He had the audacity to be trying to parallel park in a spot that was really tight. Anyways, he needs to figure out a better system, especially since it sounds like you work late nights often. You know what I don't hear, what I don't see a single fucking time in this post? You know what I don't see a single fucking time in this post? At the risk of sounding like a bad person, how about like you triple check when you leave work to make sure you got your fucking keys on you? I guess the husband's got to do we got to develop a whole new system to make sure your husband never has his phone on silent. But at the same time, mistakes happen. You leave, people forget things all the time. So you shouldn't feel bad about leaving your keys at work. But your husband who didn't have his phone on 3 volume and instead he had it on a soft surface with vibrate on, like, at least apply it both ways. Like, I want to type a post in here and be like, you ever consider learning the 2-tap method? Where when you're leaving any place or when you're walking around, you just tap one pocket and you're like wallet, and you tap another pocket and you're like, there's my phone. You tap another pocket and there's your keys. I understand women's pants don't always have big pockets for all that stuff, but you can at least look in your purse, or at least wherever you're keeping your keys, you can have some sort of visual confirmation or tactile confirmation that you got the device that you need in order to get home and get into your house. We need to teach people about the taps, man. The testicles, spectacles, wallet, and watch. They're both assholes, but he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. His phone just happened to be on silent. He was just asleep. By the way, if you reverse the roles of this one, the interpretation is exactly the same. I hope that they would be like, your wife should, have your phone, she should have her phone with the ringer on just in case you have a problem. But now I'm thinking about it a little more, and I'm like, no, I bet they would be like, literally, your wife was just trying to sleep. Man up, idiot. You really woke up your sleeping wife? You woke up your sleeping wife because you forgot your keys? You sound like a selfish asshole. I hope she leaves you and finds somebody that will actually take her seriously. You better check yourself before she leaves someone who will show her the respect she deserves. If anything, he should be mad that she left her keys. Okay, now maybe it's going too far. If this happened to me, and my spouse was mad at me, I would be disproportionately mad at her, because I would be like, that's really irresponsible of you to leave your keys at your office and put yourself in a situation that could be dangerous. Like, I'm not to potentially victim blame. I'm just saying at the same time, like, we gotta both insulate ourselves from this kind of like nightmare in the future. That's why do you see the kind of problems that a 3-tap solves? If you've got one important possession in each pocket and you just go tap, 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 you're good to go. I think my sentence here is just, could she just buy a really small pair of men's jeans to wear to work? So they've got big pockets, and then one pocket has your phone, one pocket has your keys, and one pocket has your wallet. And I also want to say, and I'm sure that men do this too, but I so often see it from women. We got to stop this iPhone in the back pocket thing. You're asking for trouble. I'm not even talking about pickpockets, although it's a juicy target with 75% of your iPhone sticking out of your back pocket. But one day you're going to sit down. You're going to sit down on your iPhone. You're going to crack the screen, okay? And maybe we need to completely revolutionize women's fashion to get deeper front pockets or something like that, but come on. It's just you're setting yourself up for failure when you got a smartphone in your back pocket. That's where your wallet goes, and it just causes gradually asymmetry in your spine that leads to lifelong back pain, okay? Anyway, I why does everybody have a story of somebody else being the asshole for not being a slave to their cell phone? Like, it's driving me crazy. You're the asshole. Okay, yeah, I agree with you, but let's pass. Not the asshole. This is a weird one. I didn't realize so many people would be okay with their spouse being out of reach unless it was something you both knew about ahead of time. Unless you both knew that an unexpected emergency was definitely not going to happen. Are you listening to yourself? Unless you both agreed in advance to not have anything urgent pop up. Redditors be like, imagine sleeping, not me. If I were stranded somewhere and tried to call my partner and they ignored me, I'd be upset too. I'd also point out to them that if I had been calling for an emergency, say I was hospitalized and trying to get a hold of them, they would have missed my call and that going forward, they need to be responsible. That's an expectation for me, not you. If your spouse didn't know you expected support. Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine. Hey, just so you know, you wouldn't have had to give me 50 missed calls if you didn't forget your keys at work. As long as we're playing the nobody's ever allowed to make a mistake game, whose mistake caused this whole situation in the first place? Just so you know, you wouldn't have had to call me 50 times if you just did the 3-tap and made sure you didn't leave your keys at work. NL, people forget things all the time. It's a habit. It's a human's mistake. And then people forget to leave the ringer on all the time. Why is it that there's a double standard on the ringer, but leaving your keys at home? And also, it's like, how is she able to get into her house without having their keys to begin with? It's like, that's also a bigger problem. That she could have been stranded outside of her house. That's why you gotta check the keys, man. Redditors be like, if I had a spouse and this was an emergency, this would be a deal breaker for me. No assholes here. People here responding, telling OP to call 911 if it was an emergency, don't get the point, because that completely blows out her argument and undermines her position. The point is OP's partner was unable to be contacted. If there had been an emergency, just restating the point again. You're missing the point. The point is that if you believe what she's saying and agree with it, then she's right. He still wouldn't have answered. That is what OP means when they worry about him not responding during an emergency. OP was not saying their partner should act as emergency services. No, but like what they're saying, you're missing the point. They're not saying that like your husband would be the cops and the paramedics and the fire department. They're saying at least you wouldn't like fucking die. You would be able to get some help, and then when your husband woke up, he would be like, holy shit, 60 missed calls. Let's like get ahead of this problem now, even though you got a head start on me. Like, I understand that you're like, I would like to be able to reach my spouse at all times, but at the same time, like, this is about your personal safety if it was an actual emergency. You're right. Police should have driven a snowmobile to his house, let him stew for a little bit. Hey, not so good on the cell phone there, are you, Andy? Well, remember how you used to have a wife? You better hop on the snowmobile. Just kind of putter around for 30 minutes and be like, oh, no, she came home while we were on the ride. She just forgot her car keys and was mad at you. I don't understand the fiction here. On the other side, her husband didn't do it intentionally. There wasn't malice here. Not from his side. Not from his side. You're the asshole. You took one moment where everything was stacked against your husband, that he didn't hear his phone go off, ignored his reasonable explanation, and jumped to you're unreliable in an emergency. That's not a reasonable way to talk through a conflict. So true. So true. After 12 a.m., he wasn't available, mind you. Such a reasonable time of day to not be reachable. LOL. No, if your wife regularly commutes home after midnight, you should absolutely be available in case of emergency. Hell, if you have any family at all, you should absolutely always be available. Okay. He probably agrees, but he happened to put his phone on a soft surface once. Again, it's completely reasonable to leave the thing that allows you to get into your car, in your house, in your locker at work. It's completely unreasonable to have your phone on silent and then fall asleep. I am a human being, by the way. You're the asshole. I can't do. I honestly have to move on from this one. Otherwise, we're never going to get to another post. This is insane to me. Again, he should be reachable, but at the same time, like, you made a mistake that revealed his mistake that is not even on the same magnitude as your mistake. It's like if you skipped lunch and didn't tell your husband you skipped lunch. Then he came home from work and you expected him to have brought home takeout without asking him. And then you're blaming him for the fact that you're hungry. You didn't eat lunch. And you didn't text me saying get some quesadillas on your way home. You gotta eat a snack. Heart and soul. It's got a lot of heart and soul. I don't know the rest of the words, but it's got a pretty good bass line, heart and soul. My wife is streaming Mahjong Monday's Pog. I'll send you right over to her stream. Hope you have a great rest of your Monday night. I'll see you tomorrow for Dome Keeper. A scrammy,